is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to Dope Interviews brought to you by Mighty 19 Media Group. I'm your host, Warren Shaw, and in the virtual building today, got another powerful conversation lined up. Today's guest is someone who's helped the Tribeca Film Festival grow into a global destination for film, television, music, and immersive experiences and creative discovery. It's my first time getting to actually cover this festival, so I'm super excited. And this year's feels even bigger. It is a 25th anniversary, a milestone that reflects the evolution of this festival. We're tapping in with the festival director, Cara Cusumano. Cara, what's good? Welcome to Dope Interviews. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you being here again, as well-traveled as you are and as tired as you probably are. This is a massive event. I've had the pleasure of, I live locally in South Florida, so I've been to the Miami Film Festival. Nice, cool, amazing, great people. Lauren Cohen, like amazing individual. Had a chance to check South by Southwest for the first time this year as well too. Another mega scale, a little overwhelming, but I have like strong New York roots. I was born in New York. My mom just moved, officially from New York to Florida here with me. But again, love going back to the Apple. How do you do this? This is a monster. This is a monster event. What goes into the planning of a festival of this ilk and this like when you get started for the next year, and how do you do all the processes?
Right. Truly it is a year-round process to plan for these 12 days. So as soon as one ends, we're kind of right on to planning the next one. Usually in the summer, we start with brainstorming. What do we want this year to be? Do we have ideas for new programs, new sections? Launching the Storytelling Summit last year, or 2 years ago, we did a celebration of Robert De Niro's career. This year, it was all about the 25th anniversary. So, thinking about that milestone, how are we going to plan for it, celebrate it? So a lot of that happens in the summer. Then we officially open for submissions late summer, and we hit the road. We go to Toronto, we go to LA and AFM. I go to Venice, then we go to Sundance, just doing those meetings and scouting, finding out what's out there, at the same time as we're watching all of the submissions that come in, almost 14,000 this year. So it's a very big team that's watching, that's tracking, that's maintaining those conversations. And you kind of just chip away at it. Like as you see things that are going to work for New York, that are going to be perfect for the lineup, or that we think we could build into something bigger, just get into it with each film and start to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, what's something that people don't realize when it comes to organizing it, if you will, right? Like how many debates are happening. And I think one thing that I've noticed about it, like it's not just film. And I don't know if it started as singularly film, but now the TV and games, like just kind of talk a little bit about how the decision is to expand it in those ways and how you say no to people that are obviously very, very talented.
Yeah, I think that we always thought of Tribeca as a storytelling festival, and that for the form that took initially was as a film festival, and film very much remains the bedrock. We show 125 feature films, probably half that many, 75 or so short films. The other sections of things that we do, like podcasts and TV and games, are more like 10 or 12 events. So they're complementary, and I think it was really about understanding how people were making work, creators were making work, how audiences were consuming it. And it didn't feel like these were distinctions that were adding value. What we should really be doing is bringing all of these creators and storytellers together to collaborate, to network, to work together. And certainly the kinds of storytelling we were seeing happening in games and in podcasts and in immersive were cinematic, and we're building off a tradition of independent film and innovation that we felt like could be at home within the festival, and that has been what has happened. So it's always about kind of keeping an ear to the ground for where can we add value as a curatorial voice, where is there an explosion of creativity and work happening and excited audiences, but maybe that connection could be easier, and we can kind of step in and say, Tribeca, the kinds of films we show. Now here are 10 independent games we think you should pay attention to, or 10 online creators that we think are really working within an independent cinematic tradition.
Well, that's fire. Honestly and truly, right? To have the runway, to have the vision, and to understand that these things and these creatives are all very important, and especially in a place like New York, where it's like there's just so much talent, there's so many layered things going on, within that space, and to be able to highlight things within that creative space, I just think is truly a testament to you and your team, in that space. When you look at Tribeca, when you joined, I believe it was in 2008. What is the thing that stands out the most for you in terms of that growth?
I think it is how interdisciplinary the festival has become. And certainly I came to it from film. When I first joined, almost 20 years ago, I had just finished grad school for cinema studies. I wanted to work in film and independent film, and Tribeca being the hometown festival for me in New York, that was the only place that I wanted to be. And sometimes I look back at the working documents that we had to put the festival together back then, and it's like, oh, it looks so simple. It was just movies. And there's something that that's so lovely about that. But I think that the scale of the growth was not something I could have anticipated at that time. Like, immersive didn't exist as a thing. Podcasts didn't exist as a thing. Instagram and TikTok didn't exist as things. So being able to be a relatively young festival, even though we're 25, I think we're among the youngest, I think has also given us a certain nimbleness to be adaptive and reflective of these new technologies and these new platforms as they emerge.
You talked about your foray, right? And I know it's important, but I don't know if you can kind of exemplify more so the importance of being a filmmaker yourself, right? And holding the role in which you do, as opposed to somebody walking off the street or an evaluator of talent, so to speak. Like, your foray into filmmaking, what got you into filmmaking, and then ultimately led you to the position to take on Tribeca.
Yeah, I mean, I was a festival programmer first, and my sort of journey through film school, I knew I didn't want to be a filmmaker, actually, and that was when it came time to pick a job, and your university is telling you about career opportunities in your field. What was presented to us was very much, you could be a critic, you can be a filmmaker, you can continue on and be an academic, and none of those really resonated with me. So I just wanted to keep watching movies. And it turns out that is a job that you can have, that they'll pay you to do. And I have it, and I'm very excited. So I found festivals out of grad school and have always done this. I did make a short film that I think you're referencing, which was just I think maybe, you watch other people do it long enough, you start to think like, I've done my 10,000 hours. I can take a crack at this. And I'm proud of it. It was really fun. But I also think it was just really meaningful to then do the festival circuit. I played probably 12 or 15 festivals with that short, and I got to travel to them and experience the other side of being at a festival, and some of the things that really worked for me and didn't when I was traveling, I could then take back to Tribeca and try to reflect in the experience that we offer.
Yeah. You touched on a little bit earlier, the fact that it is 25, right? And it stems out of 9/11. And not to be morbid per se in any capacity, I just remember where I was actually in New York. I was at the time, I have a heavy sports background. And so I was literally signing my paperwork to intern with the New York Knicks when a plane was flying into a tower. Like, literally, I looked on the TV that they had there in MSG. I was like, what is happening? I don't know if you can recall and remember where you were at that time, and then just talk about, how Tribeca is in any way honoring that 25-year experience.
Yeah, of course. I was here also. I had just moved to New York, actually, to go to college. So I had lived in New York for about a week when 9/11 happened. And obviously, that whole first year of living in the city was very colored by what had happened. And I think that to experience the first Tribeca Festival as an attendee and as a new transplant to New York, I felt so much the impact that it had just on the sort of mood of the city, and the initial thesis of, we're going to give people something else to look forward to, a new memory about the city, a new reason to come downtown and to celebrate, was so meaningful and so needed in that moment. So I don't think at that time I was like, I'm gonna work here someday. But I do think it is helpful to have, you know, people who work here now or filmmakers that are coming through. Some of them weren't even born yet when 9/11 happened, but you know, I did experience that as you did, and I did experience it all the way through that first festival, which I think is very helpful in trying to now think about that legacy and reflect it in what we're doing today. And certainly it came back to being resonant again through COVID. And I think when everything was shut down in the city and we had a festival anyway, we figured it out. We did it outdoors. We got the city on board. It was free. It was through every borough. You know, it's in the DNA of this organization that it is for the community of New York. And it is about how film can bring us together and kind of get us through those hardships.
Yeah, I love that answer. You know, because it speaks also the resiliency, you know, of the city, the resiliency of people as well. And I remember being there and just the palpable change. Obviously, New York has a rap for, you know, having a little attitude, et cetera, et cetera. But I just remember like how people were just so much nicer to each other for a while, and and understand something so good and so meaningful has resulted out of that tragedy, right? Like this festival, and it's now propelling people, right, and giving people opportunities in essence to create and to be showcased, and then share that in excitement as well too. I love that. And I'm really excited that, you know, my first year covering it is obviously this 25th year, so it means a lot to me. We're chatting with the amazing, you know, Cara Cusumano here, festival director of Tribeca. Let's take a quick break here and dope interview, John. We'll be right back.
You've earned this. Now it's time to embark on your own personal adventure. Book your vacation with exquisite travel and tours today. Explore the world and discover yourself.
And we're back here on Dope Interviews. Make sure you're following Tribeca at Tribeca on social media platforms. Great content throughout their social platforms. And obviously, if you have an opportunity to check out the festival June 3rd to the 14th, make sure you do that as well. Cara, let's jump back into some of the conversation. This festival has launched the careers of many people, right? I know you can't pick favorites, and you can't do that, but is there anything that you think people should be like really paying attention to? Any directors and or films that like, hey, these are some of the highlights that we're trying to really get people's eyes on here at this year's 25th anniversary?
Yeah, I mean, we all have our favorites that we're not allowed to talk about. They're all our children. But I think one of the things that we think about when programming the festival is that it you know, like any festival, it is a festival for its hometown and for its local community. And we're very, very fortunate that our hometown is New York City, which is the biggest, most diverse movie going group in the world, probably. So it's very liberating as a programmer to feel like we can really show anything, and it's going to connect. It's going to find the audience that it's for. So I guess my somewhat roundabout answer to that is always, you know, I always sort of put it back on the person who's asking me when they want recommendations of like, what do you like? Because I truly think that we have everything. And it's just about kind of connecting the right audiences to the right work. So for instance, I think that our Escape from Tribeca Midnight program is really incredible. And I love it when people come out for the genre films because they bring a very particular energy that is so wonderful to see in the theaters. We have a film called Mutter from Turkey that is about a woman who gives birth to something, a creature, a child. And it's such a fascinating story because it is like a great midnight creature feature as she tries to kind of protect this child that she has had. But it's also like kind of a stirring portrait of motherhood and the challenges that come with that. So, balancing both of those in a film, I think is really cool. Similarly, I think our shorts programming, if you're talking about discovery and you're talking about launching careers, like please come and discover a shorts program because you'll see 5 different new voices in one package. We had Ryan Coogler's first short film. We had John Chu's first short film. So some of these people who are premiering work at a festival for the very first time may go on to, be Academy Award winners and nominees. I think we have had a short film that we played nominated for an Oscar in every year but one in the history of the festival. So it's sort of a simultaneously a leap of faith to go see a shorts program because you really don't know what you're going to get. At the same time as I think it's a very safe bet because they're going to be amazing.
Yeah, there's like, as I was saying in the intro to this, like there's so many layers. And so I was looking at even something last night and I was like, well, what's the Vultures Festival? And I was like, how does that connect? And, you know, we have the panelists, and again, I have a sports background. I love music as well, too. I was on the virtual call that Shoal had for media a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, oh, X-Men 97. Oh, how do I get into that? So I'm just like, you know, I'm not even overstimulated. I'm just overly excited, you know, about trying to connect. So, you know, we touched on it earlier, but as you alluded to, like, how do you organize that, I guess, for the guest experience, right? Understand how, all the ways you can absolutely connect to that too. Because even when I was looking at Vultures, I was like, well, you know, how does this, you know what I mean? Is this storytelling and panelists? You know, there's stuff going on with The Handmaid's Tale. I was like, yo, this is a wild situation. Congratulations. But it's just like, yeah, how would you advise somebody to organize their time here at Tribeca?
Yeah, I mean, I think a common thing that we hear when we're talking about the festival or, you know, doing the overview that you talked about is people saying, well, I can't do all this. I can't possibly see everything. Like, and the response I would have is, you're not supposed to. It is for all of New York City. It is a festival. Filmmakers often ask, well, you know, what night is the best night to be on? I don't want to be up against anything else, but it's inevitable. Everything is up against something else. And I think that that's actually part of the fun and the energy is you do have to kind of make your picks and you know, go with what you see and what you miss and accept that. I personally, when I go to festivals and, you know, for my own experience at Tribeca, I try to hit as much of the live stuff as I can. The live music performances, we're going to have Magdalena Bay, we're going to have Peter Frampton, we're going to have Katy Perry here, Mumford and Sons, Earth, Wind and Fire performing with the Roots, Sarah Bareilles. Like, it's an amazing lineup of just musicians. And then talks too, with Madonna coming through. Bruce Springsteen is going to be here. Because those things happen in the room and only in the room, I think anytime you can attend those and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think with the films, sometimes you can get some word of mouth as the festival's going on and you're talking to other filmmakers or attendees about what they're loving. And that can help kind of guide where you want to be. But it is, yeah, you roll the dice a little bit, but I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah, well, Tribeca is definitely creating a little bit of FOMO, Cara. I can't lie, you know, because yeah, you do want to try to catch everything. But I mean, it related like if you're at a conference, like for your normal 9 to 5, like, hey, there's going to be sessions that are overlap with each other that you just can't possibly make everything. And yeah, you have to make some executive decisions there. So I'm really excited about, you know, what my journey will be, you know, through this as well. And then how people are going to respond. And the fact that a lot of the films are shown multiple times, maybe 3, even sometimes 4 times. So that does give you maybe a second or third opportunity to catch something that you might have missed out on. So, you know, kudos to your team, you know, for that. Speaking of the team, how large is the team, right? And, you know, like I said, it's a year-round process, but how large is the team? And if somebody was interested in trying to join Tribeca, and not necessarily take your role, but get into the spaces where they could help decide some of the platforms and things that are going on, how would one go about doing that?
Yeah, I think people might be surprised at how small our full-time team is, you know, the year-round programming team, but also just the larger festival team. Everybody works at the whole company is, you know, not huge, probably under 50 people. And then during the festival itself, we scale up with a lot of seasonal hires and, you know, people who are joining just for the dates of the festival to execute the logistics of this huge event. And it becomes thousands and thousands of people who are working here. So I do think programming, if that's what you're interested in, is actually like relatively easy to break into because we have such a high volume of submissions. We need really reliable people watching. And starting in September, there's probably 100 people on the committee working their way through the submissions, making recommendations, and things kind of move up through different layers of the process.
So as you talk about that team stuff, that it's you're making very, very hard decisions. And, you know, I have to ask this question just because of where we are in society right now. The notion of how AI is, you know, impacting, you know, entertainment and media, you know, has Tribeca team made any types of decisions when it comes to AI and filmmaking, you know, that creators need to be cognizant of?
Yeah, I think it is complicated, like, because I know that there is a lot of pushback in the creative community about the use of AI and the right way, or if to use AI. But I also think the filmmakers should be literate in it, and the door should be open for creativity always. So in a way, as a festival, I think we have to be a bit agnostic, and I would never say a film can't be in the festival because it used AI in a certain way, nor would I say, this film has to, we have to have a section on AI, or we have to have a film about using AI. I think it has to be creator led, and it's our job to kind of reflect and amplify what are the best interactions that we see happening out there.
Final couple ones here, Cara, before I let you ride out of here and get back to planning, and all the things that you need to do. After these many, many years of the festival and even your involvement in it, why are you still so excited about it? What really brings you the energy? Just the pure love of the craft, or is there anything else that's kind of fueling your fire behind Tribeca?
I really like watching movies. I continue to get excited, and if there comes a day where it starts to feel like a slog, or I'm not looking forward to putting on the next submission, then I will. Then it's time to move on. But you get addicted to that sense of discovery and that feeling of, whatever the next thing I put on could be a masterpiece. And I could be the one helping greenlight that person into the next stage of their career. I also love that it is very sort of left brain, right brain job, where you get to be creative, you get to be curatorial, you get to showcase your taste at the same time as there's plenty of color-coded spreadsheets, and we're scheduling and we're looking at box office reports. And I think that, for me personally, that's just very rewarding, that the job is never the same thing. As we go through the year, you're building something, and every stage of that looks a little different. So now coming up on the festival is also a fun part, where I get to kind of run around and high five everybody and be part of these really celebratory, exciting moments in their careers and their lives. And it does feel really, really rewarding.
And my final question, as you talk about that fun part, what has been your most memorable moment in Tribeca in all the years that you've been there? Now, you have to pick one. I understand what it is. You love all your children, but what's one moment that has stood out for you in all your years of Tribeca?
One moment. There's been highs and lows. There's been ups and downs. Sadly, the first moment I thought of was when the festival didn't happen in 2020, and I had to send an email to every filmmaker saying at the time it was postponed. So that's the highly memorable, but I know not the spirit of the question you're asking. There was a really beautiful moment that I think about a lot, and I want to say it was 2011. It was opening night, and we were opening with a documentary that had Elton John, featured Elton John, and the screening was outside on the water for probably 5,000 people, just this massive kind of open air screening room. And after the film was over, Elton John came out and performed, and I don't think it was even announced that this was going to happen. And he just spoke so beautifully about the moment as it was happening, and played your song and dedicated it to the city of New York. And I was just very moved. It felt like that was everything coming together perfectly, what we were trying to do with this film and with the interdisciplinary nature of the arts, and for the audience and for the city. And I was like, it doesn't get any better than this. It was, a little moving.
It speaks to the spirit of which I think you said a little bit earlier, right? Check out the live things, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing, and an amazing way to close. Cara, I want to thank you so much, for being as gracious as you are, again, as being as traveled and tired as you are, to spend some time with us here on Dope Interviews and explain the importance and the elegance of the Tribeca Festival, which I'm so excited to be covering. She is the amazing Cara Cusumano, the festival director at Tribeca. Make sure you check out Tribeca June 3rd through the 14th. Follow them at Tribeca. I'm Warren Shaw. You can follow me at Warren Shaw on all social media platforms. And you know what it is, man. Another Dope Interviews, getting ready for the Tribeca Festival this year. And we're out.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart, in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation. Understand me?